So I have traveled a lot in the last few years, and every single trip has required me to bring my laptop so that I can still work. And I've tried a lot of different, configurations, setups, and accessories, but here is my current minimal MacBook travel setup that I recently took on a work trip down to Sydney, Australia. And also, none of the products you see in this video are sponsored. I bought them all with my own money. Let's start with the bag that holds all of my gear. Now I'm rocking the Lowepro ProTactic BP300AW Mark II. And I actually picked this up in Las Vegas earlier this year when I was attending CES 2025. Now the primary reason for choosing this bag is it's a hybrid camera bag. So I travel with a mirrorless camera system with usually one or two lenses, either for work, depending on what I'm doing, or amateur travel photography, which I'm trying to get better at. Now I can safely store the camera in the hardened camera section of the bag with quick access panels on the side. But because this is a hybrid bag, I've also got space at the top for personal items like food or clothing, etc. And the top can also be expanded via these straps. And there is also a laptop sleeve. It's overall a really well-built, sturdy bag, but there are some things that I don't like. For example, the quick access pocket at the top is counterintuitively hard to access. And I really can't fit too much stuff in the bag, which is also kind of my choice because I don't want to be carrying around a really huge and heavy bag all day long. So I have to be, brutally minimalist with what I'm packing. That being said, I can get away with fitting everything in here for a 1 to 2 day trip, like my most recent trip to Sydney. But anything longer than that, then I will need an additional carry-on sized bag. Side note, if you are planning to take a camera while traveling, grab the Peak Design camera clip. It just clips to your bag strap and then a mount screws into your camera, and you can just clip your camera to it when you need your hands free or when changing lenses, etc. Now inside the laptop sleeve is hands down the most portable laptop right now, which is the Apple Silicon MacBook Air. Now it weighs very little, obviously, hence the name. It's also super thin, so it doesn't really take up that much room in my backpack. And this portability doesn't really sacrifice too much on performance, particularly with the latest M4 version that I have here. Now, some of you may know that typically my laptop of choice is actually the more powerful and slightly less portable M4 Pro MacBook Pro. However, I have been trialing a new way of working while traveling recently. So instead of needing the more powerful laptop with me physically, I've actually had great success remote accessing my work computer at home using software called Parsec. It's essentially a remote access software like TeamViewer, but Parsec is specifically designed to have super low latency. In fact, it was originally designed for remote gaming. So you can actually do those tasks that require a lot of little adjustments with very little lag, like 3D modeling, or for me, editing videos and seeing accurate colors. Now, so far, I've only tried Parsec when traveling nationally. I believe latency will start to become an issue the further away from the source computer you get, and I'll be able to try that out and report back when I next travel overseas sometime later this year. Now, you do, of course, need a solid internet connection as a minimum too, so take that into consideration. But so far, my experience with Parsec has been pretty good, and it's allowed me to, as mentioned before, take the more portable MacBook Air, where I otherwise would have needed a more powerful computer, at least on those non-international trips. Now, speaking of software, while I'm traveling, I also find myself occasionally needing to use Windows, which is a problem because, I only have a Mac computer with me, and I don't exactly want to carry a second laptop around just to use Windows. Now, you may have heard of a program called Parallels that allows me to run Windows directly on my MacBook, which completely solves this issue for me. And big thanks to Parallels for supporting my channel and working with me for this section of the video. Now, Parallels is officially authorized by Microsoft and allows you to run Windows 11 and Windows applications on your Mac. You can access over 200,000 Windows apps to work, study, and play. For example, if there's an app that maybe doesn't work on Mac OS, you can install it on Parallels. And this is great for specialized Windows software like MATLAB, ANSYS, or SolidWorks, for example, allowing you to stay productive outside of the office. Or if you just prefer the Windows version of Office 365, for example, you can just use coherence mode to run Windows applications directly in macOS as though they were native Mac apps. Parallels is super easy to install. You can access all of your Mac's files, and it doesn't require a constant internet connection, unlike the remote access solutions out there like Parsec. So check out the link in the description of this video and use code Liam to get 35% off Parallels for Mac. Okay, so one of the most significant upgrades I've recently made to my travel setup is the Roost laptop stand. It just makes looking at the screen more ergonomic instead of looking down for hours at a time, which kind of makes my neck really tight after a while. Now, for me, it was actually quite difficult to find a stand that raises the screen high enough to be comfortable for me. So roughly having the top of the screen level with my eyes, that's about where you want it. I'm 6'4" for reference, and this is one of the only ones, at least that I could find out there, that goes fairly high. So big thumbs up from me from an ergonomic point of view. Now, it's actually a pretty simple design. So I can adjust the height via sliding toggles on either side. These rubber kind of swivel feet hold the base of the laptop steady, and when I'm done, it just folds away and goes into a protective bag, which fits easily in my backpack. Now, to keep the weight down, it is made of plastic, which is kind of a negative, I suppose, because if I drop something heavy on it, or if it's in my checked baggage, for example, and gets banged around a lot, it may break, but so far I haven't had any issues. Now, I obviously have to use a separate keyboard and mouse alongside the Roost. I found that the Apple Magic keyboard, honestly, is the best choice for me. It's definitely not the cheapest or the best keyboard out there by any stretch of the imagination, but it is super thin and also pretty lightweight. And is also the only keyboard out there with Touch ID, which is just really nice when you're using a MacBook for hours a day. Now, I pair this with the Logitech Signature M650 wireless mouse. It's essentially a cheaper and bare bones version of the more expensive and popular MX Master. One of the reasons I bought it though is that the clicks are very quiet, so you can use it in a library or a cafe, for example, and not be too intrusive. That also goes for the Magic Keyboard too. It's actually very quiet. Now, the battery on the mouse lasts for months at a time and is also removable. So before I leave for a trip, I just swap the battery with a recently charged one, and I never have any issues. It also comes with a USB dongle in case there's any issues with Bluetooth on my Mac. You know, it's not responding or it stops working, for example. I can just plug the receiver into my USB hub and connect that way. Now, I could bring the MX Master 3 that I use at my desk, but I just don't need all of its features when traveling. And also, you know, if I lose or break this one, it's not super expensive to replace. Now, my charging setup is as compact and minimal as I can possibly make it. For the last 3 years, I've been using the 35-watt dual USB-C port compact power adapter that was an optional upgrade with my MacBook Air. I also bought the Apple World Travel Adapter Kit, and I really love this setup because the 35-watt charger is super compact and portable. You can see it just fits right in the palm of my hand. And I like this option better than others because I have 2 USB-C ports to charge my, MacBook, phone, watch, Kindle, whatever. And also B, I can actually swap to the exact plug of the country I'm traveling to, which means unlike those really bulky, multi-country adapters, this one fits perfectly in the wall and doesn't kind of jiggle around or fall out like they do. Now, 35 watts is enough charging capacity for me. I just leave my MacBook and phone charging overnight. But if you're using a more powerful MacBook or doing something intensive all day on your MacBook and it's just churning through the battery, may not be enough for you personally. In that situation, you'll likely require some kind of 60-watt charger instead. Also, now that all of my devices are USB-C, they can all be charged using the same USB-C cable. So I can unplug my MacBook and plug my phone in, or charge my MacBook while charging my phone that is connected to the MacBook. Even my camera has a USB-C port, so I can charge that too and not have to bring the bulky charger that came with the camera in the box. So my Apple Watch is really the only non-USB-C device I bring when traveling these days. And up until my last trip, I just brought my basic Apple Watch USB-C to wireless charging cable, but I've recently been trialing the 12 South Butterfly 3-in-1 charger. So this is essentially just a small little puck that opens up and allows me to wirelessly charge two things at once. So iPhone, AirPods, or Apple Watch with this little flip out holder. Now it is nice not having to plug cables in all the time, and it does streamline my charging setup, but I'm not 100% convinced on it yet. I technically don't need it. As I mentioned before, I've been charging all of my devices with cables with no issues. And I also found that the wireless pad can kind of stick to the phone when I lift it off with one hand, unless I use my finger to kind of push the charger off while also lifting the phone. But overall, this is the first trip that I've used it on, and it's been a good experience so far. Now, one of my favorite travel accessories is the Peak Design Tech Pouch. Now, I have taken this thing on every single trip since 2020 because the origami style layout is exceptionally good for organization, and also just allows me to quickly find and access almost anything. Side note, Peak Design also has a wash pouch for toiletries, which I also use. Now, all of my tech goes in the tech pouch, including miscellaneous cables, external SSD. I'm using the Samsung T5, by the way, super affordable and portable way to store a few terabytes of data. And then I've got small items in the zipper section, chargers, it fits everything, even an emergency medical pouch and my eye mask for sleeping on the plane or in bright hotels. So I keep all tech and essential items in here, so it's all in just one place. And also makes it really easy to just pull out of my bag on the plane and immediately have access to everything. Now, I also always make sure to take some kind of USB-C dongle. This is just a basic one from Anker with some Ethernet and USB-A ports, just in case I need it for whatever reason. Now, I've also stopped carrying a portable battery too. I found that I just never really ever used it. And if I do need to top up my phone, there's a big ass battery in my bag already, my laptop, right? So I just make sure the laptop is charged. And that's kind of like my very own portable battery if I ever need it. Also, do yourself a favor and get something like this travel tray from Bihn. I keep all my little miscellaneous hotel knickknacks in there, like spare change, receipts, lip balm, or any other random things that would otherwise be laying around on tables or benches in the hotel that can of course be easily lost. It just helps keep everything in one place. And when I move to a new hotel, I literally just pick it up, tie off the top, shove it in my bag, and then just open it back up at the new hotel. Also, if you have an iPhone, I highly recommend getting some kind of MagSafe stand case. I am using the O stand from a company called TORRAS. This is not sponsored, by the way. You can see just how scuffed and beat up this case is. I've been using it for a long time on multiple international trips. It's got MagSafe on the back and also this pull-out ring so I can prop the phone up in portrait or landscape to watch movies, or just kind of, use it to hold in my hand a little bit easier. Now, apart from some other random miscellaneous items, that is pretty much all of the tech gear that I take when traveling. I find it's kind of a nice balance between having enough gear to make working on the go comfortable enough without sacrificing portability or excessive weight. I am definitely guilty of taking too much stuff when I travel, and all it does is just take up room in my bag and give me back pain because I'm carrying it around all day. If you're not going to be using it regularly, just don't take it. Cut it. I've started about 5 years ago really traveling minimally and as light as possible, and that has honestly done nothing but improve my travel experience all up.